Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Around the Big Ten podcast. I'm Mark Givler, joined by Chip Minnick. We have made it to the end. This is our number 18. This is our last 2025 Big Ten team schedule breakdown. We've done all 18 now after this one. Looking at the schedules, best worst case scenarios, trap games, big games, all that good stuff. What was the movie? Was the movie called 300?
Yes.
Yeah, with the Spartan, like this. So like that was like their last stand, right? So like this kind of makes sense that we're doing Michigan State like last, kind of like our last stand before I don't know, before Big Ten Media Days, I guess. But yeah, so we're gonna talk about Michigan State. Chip and I think have both been on the same page in terms of we liked the Jonathan Smith hire. I know Michigan State fans were not always happy with the Jonathan Smith hire last year. There was some good, there was some bad. I think there's some mixed feelings on that from the fan base, but I remain pretty optimistic about it. Chip, what are your thoughts, like expectations coming in for Jonathan Smith year two? Just kind of your assessment of kind of where the program is at now under his leadership.
I think it's certainly warranted by Michigan State fans to be kind of grumbling and anxious and irritated that Michigan State football is not where they expect it to be, and what we've seen as Big Ten fans, what we've seen it in the not so distant past. My belief is that the Jonathan Smith hire, like you said, I'm very much still on board. I think his track record at Oregon State, what he did there with that program, I think good things are coming for Michigan State. It's very easy to sit here and say be patient when, after everything that Michigan State, the football program has been through, to be kind of like, we want to win and we want to win now. He's building it the right way. He really is. And I just think that, this coming year, the opportunity to possibly get back to a bowl game is certainly there. He had, I think, a good first year. I think this is going to be another developmental year. It won't surprise me if Michigan State doesn't make it to a bowl game, but it's certainly not because of any poor effort by Jonathan Smith or his coaches.
Yeah, I think we're in alignment there. Like it is. It's understandable why Michigan State fans are like, this is not a 5 or 6 win program, but it's also understandable why it kind of is right now. There's been a lot of turmoil there. It's not a program that I would think has from the like kind of end of D'Antonio era into like a lot of the previous regime has been consistently recruiting well. So I think Jonathan Smith walked into a very difficult situation in that regard in terms of the talent level of the roster. This was a program that for many years was really, they were churning out NFL players, first, second, third round picks. That hasn't been, they've had some good players, but it just hasn't been at the level that it was kind of in Mark D'Antonio's, peak and prime at Michigan State. So there's a lot to fix there. I think he's fixing it. We'll see. This will be a big year. Let's look at the schedule. So here it is. I'll read it for people who are listening. Michigan State's 2025 schedule starts home Western Michigan, home Boston College, home Youngstown State, at USC, bye week at Nebraska, home UCLA, at Indiana, home Michigan, at Minnesota, bye week, home Penn State, at Iowa, home Maryland. Chip, just again, first, as you see that, like what's kind of the first thing or two that comes to your mind?
The first thing that comes to my mind is for Michigan State to get to a bowl game, they need to hit the ground running with their non-conference. The Western Michigan, Boston College, Youngstown State games, all three of them are winnable. It wouldn't surprise me if Boston College made that a very difficult game for Michigan State, considering the fact that the Spartans basically blew that game last year at Boston College. But I think if Michigan State starts out 3-0, it's not going to be impossible. It's just going to be one of these things where the challenging road schedule that we talked about before we started recording. I think Michigan State, it's imperative that they do as well as they can in their home games, because I think that's going to be what's going to get them over the top, that magic number of 6, that threshold for bowl game eligibility.
Yeah, that was my very first reaction when we brought up the schedule and like pre-recording was, okay, they play 5 road games. That's not out of it. It's a fairly standard college football schedule. They have 5 road games, but they're all tough. Their road games are USC, Nebraska, Indiana, Minnesota, and Iowa. Those are all tough road environments against teams that should be at worst bowl teams this year. So that's going to be something they have to navigate. They're going to have to learn to win on the road. And, some generous home games though. Like, you end with Maryland at home. I think that's a win. Or I shouldn't say, I guess it's not technically, it's at Ford Field in Detroit.
Right.
So but that's, look, that's a home game for Michigan State. UCLA at home, that's a very winnable game. You got Penn State coming in. That's going to be a tough one, but it's not particularly bruising. You do get Michigan at home, which is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's always a really fun game. So I mean, there's plenty of things here that would allow them to have a winning season, in my opinion. But let's play the game, Chip. And since you broke the streak last time and you didn't actually take my game, I'm gonna let you go again here.
Okay.
What is your key game on this schedule for the Spartans in terms of like the pivot point of the season?
Well, I'm not gonna deviate from what I said earlier when we did an earlier recording with the UCLA game October 11th. I think that is pivotal for both teams. I'm gonna say, looking at that schedule, all right, best case scenario, Michigan State, they start out 3-0 in the non-conference. I'm gonna say that they lose on the road at USC and they lose after the bye week at Nebraska. So now they're at 3-2. But if they beat UCLA to go to 4-2, I think that's the kind of thing that they can possibly use that as a springboard for positive momentum in the remaining home games that they can. I wouldn't even call it an upset. Michigan State played Michigan extremely tough in Ann Arbor last year. So it's like, I think it's completely possible for them to win against the Wolverines. I'm not going to give them the win against Penn State. I think they'll, even though that's a home game. And I think and I know that we just talked about the fact that Maryland is they're going to be playing that one in Ford Field. I think they can do it. I think that UCLA game can be a springboard for them to get to at least a few more additional wins that'll get them to a bowl game.
Yeah, so we got a pattern. We got a new pattern now. Instead of taking my pick, you're taking the game after my pick. I think it's the at Nebraska game, and I talked about this on our Nebraska preview, and I've even talked about this, I think, in other episodes, where I think Michigan State at Nebraska on October 4th, I think it's week 6, is a massive game for both programs. These are now year 3 of Matt Rule and year 2 of Jonathan Smith, and these are teams who are trying to get more out of their programs right now, and both teams can't win that game. It's early enough in the season that it can really kind of springboard one of them in the direction they're trying to go. So I think that's the big one, because I agree with you. I think there's a very good chance they start 3-0. I think winning out at USC is going to be tough, but then you've got a bye week before you go to Nebraska, and Nebraska is going to be favored in that game, but I don't think it's going to be a huge spread. And I think, again, you're coming off the bye week. That's a game where if you think you're a 7-win team, that's a game you're going to either win or be very competitive in. And so I think he's going to have them ready to go. I think it's going to be a very interesting game. And I think that's the type of game, again, if they win and now you're 4-1, you get UCLA at home, maybe you're 5-1. Now all of a sudden, again, you're talking about, a 7 or 8 win team at that point, because you're going to beat Maryland, I think, at home at the end of the year. And I think you do have a chance of winning in Iowa. Kinnick's tough, but those games always seem to go be like 10-6 or something like that with Michigan State and Iowa. And Iowa, we don't know what Iowa's going to look like this year. I think we both agreed Iowa could be, a 500-ish team, or they could be like an 8 or 9 win team. It just kind of depends, how things come together. So I don't think Iowa's like a juggernaut this year. So, yeah, I think that Nebraska game either springboards them into a really good season for a second-year coach, or it's like, oh well, here we are, we're 3-2, and are we even going to make a bowl game? And so I think that's the pivotal one for Michigan State. I do want to say I like the look of their offense. Like they've got so much talent coming back on offense. They got some second-year guys who are going to be really good for them with Marsh at receiver. They add, again, this has been one of my sleepers in terms of players they like portal additions. Krishan McCray from Kent State, the receiver, he is going to shock people this year, in my opinion. It's like the second or third time I've said that. We did a transfer portal episode, and he was one of my top guys. Just remember Krishan McCray. He is dynamic, and he's going to give them really one of the best, really maybe the best 1-2 punch in the Big Ten that's not located in Columbus, Ohio. I mean, they may have one of the best 1-2 punches at wide receiver in the conference. So look out for that. I think their offense has a chance to make a lot of leaps forward this year. And for me, a lot of it is like, okay, like their defense has kind of been a bit embarrassing the last couple of years based on what it had been. Like when Pete D'Antonio was here, Michigan State was as good of a defensive team as anybody in the country. Like the fall off there has been kind of incredible. They need to get back to playing physical defense and playing great defense. And so that'll be, for me, a key as to whether they can kind of maximize this year. But Chip, best and worst case scenarios here for the Spartans.
Okay. I'm going to say, like, the worst case scenario is that Michigan State, they don't win all of their non-conference. I'm going to say they beat with Western Michigan and Youngstown State, but they lose to Boston College again. And then we already talked about the challenging road games. So I could see, at the very, I'd say like the worst case scenario, I'm saying like this team potentially, if let's say that Aiden Childs regresses in his second year at quarterback, and like you said, the defense doesn't hold up their end of the bargain, maybe a 4-win team. But I really do think that they're going to be pushing much closer to bowl game eligibility. It's just that those road games are they're not impossible, but they're challenging. I mean, like Indiana is going to be good. Going to Minnesota is not easy. You already talked about going to Kinnick in November. So I think that Jonathan Smith's going to have to kind of thread the needle, but I'd say best case scenario, this team, possibly gets to 7 wins, but I think it's going to be, getting to bowl game eligibility is going to be probably more likely. I'm saying like, 6 wins, and worst case scenario is probably 4 wins.
Yeah, I think we're close again. So I think 4-8 is their worst case scenario as well. It's hard for me to see them, even if they lose to Boston College early, like there's still so much time to regroup. You're getting Maryland and UCLA at home in conference. Even like the Iowa game is winnable. It's not like at Minnesota is like an impossible game. Like I think Minnesota's gonna be good this year. They're one of my dark horse picks to like kind of surprise, but I don't think it's like an unwinnable game. It's not like you're going and playing at Georgia or something. So like I think, the dominoes could fall in a way that they go 7-5. I think that's probably their best. Maybe 8-4. I'm going to say 7-5, but I really like 8-4 is I can like contort myself into like finding that 8-4 path. But like I think 4-8 doomsday. I think 7-5 is your one of your basically your best case. And I'm on the high end when I come to like most likely outcome. I'm on the high end. I think 6 or 7 wins for this team. I think probably 6-6 would be like if you put a gun in my head and said you have to pick their record this year, I'd probably say 6-6. But I think 6 or 7 is more likely than 4 or 5 at this point. I think the high end of the range is more likely than the low end. But like you said, I think Childs takes a step forward. I think they've got 2 very dynamic wide receivers, and I don't like the defense has to be better. Like it's got to be better. So I think that'll start to come around. But I like Jonathan Smith. Thought it was a good hire. Not backing down from that yet, and think they'll show some improvements here in year 2. Oh man, are we done?
We did it.
We did it. 18 schools, schedule breakdowns, predictions. We're done. Chip, any parting thoughts on Michigan State?
Just that I think if you're a Michigan State fan, don't be in such a rush to throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. I think I understand that Michigan State football has had a lot of frustrating periods over the last few years, and I think Jonathan Smith is the right person to right the ship, and it takes time, and I know that patience is not only a virtue but it's a necessity, and so it's one of these things where this team, I think, another year of coaching and a really good off season for Aidan Chiles, I think this team, you're going to see marked improvement.
Yeah, I'm going to say a similar thing I said about UCLA, though I think this Michigan State team is a little bit better than the UCLA team, which is this team could win. This team could go 6-6 this year, which isn't going to like thrill Michigan State fans. This team could go 6-6 this year, and I could be feeling much better about this program in December than I do now. Mm-hmm. Like there's a path where 6-6 shows real improvement. Not just like wins, losses, but like there's a path where you could be looking at this team as a 6-win team and thinking, yeah, they're very much going in the right direction. I said the same thing about UCLA. I said UCLA could go 5-7 this year. And because of everything they lost after last year and all the turmoil within that program the last few years, I could see like that being like optimism there. And I feel the same way about Michigan State at going like a 6-6 record, but we'll see. Going to be, again, so many teams in the Big Ten this year where it's like to me, yes, like we know Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, we know that, but like Minnesota, Nebraska,
right,
Iowa, Michigan State, USC, Washington, like which direction are these programs going right now? We don't, it's kind of, these are like very interesting seasons for all those programs in terms of their coaching tenures there and what direction those programs are headed. So I think Michigan State's in that group as well. But thanks everyone who's been following along as we preview all 18 Big Ten teams. Big Ten Media Days start on Tuesday, run through Thursday. We're going to recap Big Ten Media Days at some point at the end of the week. We're going to talk about some breakout stars in the Big Ten moving forward. We got a bunch of good stuff planned here for the next few weeks as we get into fall camps. And then the season is just right now is like 6 weeks away. So
yeah,
I think 6 more Saturdays, right? This was like 6 more Saturdays.
Yep.
So awesome. We're getting there. Thanks everyone for watching, listening, and supporting the channel. We'll talk to you again soon.